Welcome back to Close Up. The filing period for the First in the Nation primary is about to open, and it is expected that for the first time in decades, a sitting president will not appear on the First in the Nation primary ballot. President Joe Biden wants a different process, but New Hampshire, of course, is going to maintain its tradition. This puts Granite State Democrats in a bit of a pickle when it comes to the overall task of Biden's re-election. The party leader tasked with trying to solve that problem is Kathy Sullivan, former state party chairwoman and DNC Committeewoman. Thanks for joining us here on Close Up, Kathy.
Thanks for having me.
So, setting aside all of the drama over the primary, write-in elections aren't easy. It's not easy to win when your name's on the ballot. So how do you make this happen when President Biden's name just isn't there?
Well, right now what we were talking about is just getting the word out to friends, neighbors, colleagues as best we can to know that you should vote in the First in the Nation primary. Democrats, you should vote in the Democratic primary and show your support for Joe Biden and his agenda for going in and writing in his name. It's not an easy effort. Write-ins are a heavy lift. But Democrats in New Hampshire like Joe Biden. When you look at the poll numbers, he's overwhelmingly favored by Democrats. And the poll numbers are showing that over 66% of his supporters are saying, we're going to go vote for him, even if it means writing his name in. So it's a question of how do we best harness that energy. Right now, a volunteer effort by several people just trying to get the word out. As we get closer into the filing period, if it looks like he's really not going to file, then we may be becoming something different, a little more organized. But at this point, we're just relying on volunteer effort to get the word out. Really grassroots, really grassroots. People want to vote for him. They want to show their support. And that's what we're trying to capitalize on. And of course, the last time this happened, 1968, is kind of an infamous or famous example, depending on how you want to talk about it, when Gene McCarthy was here and kind of created a groundswell that forced Lyndon Johnson to not run for re-election in 1968. This is a little bit different, but that's an indicator of there's a danger when your name's not on the ballot. Oh, it's very hard. And I think part of the problem back then was the expectations game. I mean, Johnson actually won that election, but he did not meet expectations. In my opinion, if we get 50% plus one, we win because it is hard to run a write-in. And so that's what we're focusing on, is just getting as many people out there. He's been a good president. He's got a lot accomplished despite Republican obstructionism. He has kept the economy moving. He fought off a recession when people were predicting a recession was going to hit at any minute. That has not happened. It will not happen. He's done a lot on climate, for workers' issues. He's also done a lot now to relieve student debt. I mean, he's just done a fantastic job despite the obstructionism that he's faced in Congress. And yet that polling does show some unease on the age issue, right? I mean, what about that? Well, the reality is he is our president and he's doing a good job. So despite his age, he's doing a good job, and we would expect that to continue. So I think that there's a little bit of ageism in there. As somebody who's Social Security age myself. Okay, but what about, Trump is up there too in age. I guess how much of this do you think, because there's so much, there's the, Biden's trying to take away the primary. Theoretically, the stage would be set for a challenger here, but Trump really does freeze a lot in place for Democrats because they see him as an existential threat. And he is an existential threat. You're right. That's how we see him. A lot of Republicans see him that way, although not the Republican base. And so, and I say to people, the best way to defeat Donald Trump in the presidential election is show our support here in New Hampshire for Joe Biden. That's the best thing we can do to defeat Trump. What do you make of this effort by some Republican super PACs? In particular, Chris Christie's super PAC is trying to peel off these Democratic voters, saying, hey, come and register as a Republican so you can vote in our primary and defeat Trump. Well, I think it's been a bit of a haphazard effort. I know there have been a lot of text messages and some mailings going out, but most of the Democrats I talk to aren't interested. They look at Chris Christie and they say, okay, he says that Trump's so bad, but this is a guy whose administration stopped traffic on the George Washington Bridge in a fit of political pique. This is a man who shut the beaches down in New Jersey for everyone except for him. The famous picture of him sitting on the beach. He's anti-abortion, which is a big issue here in New Hampshire. He's not strong on a lot of the issues that Democrats care about. He's very weak, actually, on most of the issues that Democrats care about. So when push comes to shove, I don't see Democrats going out and voting for somebody with Chris Christie's record, especially since he did so much to legitimize Donald Trump in the 2016 election. Did the transition team for Trump, wanted to be the chief of staff for Trump. Now, how much of his anger at Trump now, is it really because of what Trump has done, or is it a personal thing with Christie? I don't know. So numbers-wise, though, I mean, we're talking, you don't think it could be
be significant enough to move the needle in that?
No, you'd have to have 50,000 Democrats move over into voting into the Republican Party. When you look at the numbers from 2016 and Trump's margin of victory, you would have to get thousands, tens of thousands of people. That's not going to happen.
All right. Kathy Sullivan, former Democratic Party chairwoman, and has the heavy lift of trying to win a write-in campaign this time around. Thanks so much for joining us on Close Up.
And thank you for having me.
All right.